He never thought betrayal would find him in the quiet of an ordinary life. Yet there it was, a small, almost invisible fracture in the trust he had built with Maya. He had loved her gently, like the kind of love that doesn't need fireworks or dramatic gestures. Simple moments were enough. The warmth of her hand in his, the soft murmur of her voice in the morning, the way her presence could make any room feel lighter. He believed in their love with an almost stubborn certainty. But life has a way of unraveling even the most steadfast beliefs. It began subtly. Late-night texts she didn't answer, whispers of excuses that didn't quite convince him, small changes in her laughter that he couldn't place. He tried to ignore them, to convince himself he was imagining things. And then one rainy evening, the truth revealed itself. He had stopped by her apartment unannounced, carrying a small gift, a book he knew she wanted, wrapped neatly in brown paper. He imagined her surprise, the way her eyes would light up as she took it from him, and he walked up the stairs with a smile. But when he reached her door, it opened to reveal a scene he wasn't prepared for. Maya was not alone. Another man stood beside her, his hand brushing hers. They laughed softly, a private world that no longer had room for him. For a moment, he froze. The gift slipped from his hands, forgotten on the floor. Words failed him. The life he had imagined, the trust he had given freely, shattered in silence. He turned and walked away, letting the rain soak him as if it were washing away a part of himself he would never reclaim. That night, he sat by the window, listening to the rain patter against the glass. Each drop felt like a whisper of what could have been. Each gust of wind a reminder of everything he had lost. And in that quiet, he realized something painful but undeniable. Love, no matter how gentle or patient, could still hurt him in ways he hadn't imagined. The days that followed were heavy with silence. He moved through his routine, but everything felt muted. Colors seemed duller, sounds dimmer, and even the warm light of morning failed to lift the shadow over him. The betrayal weighed on him, not just as a wound from Maya's actions, but as a crack in the life he had imagined with her. At night, he would sit by the window, watching the rain slide down the glass. Sometimes it fell gently, a soft rhythm that almost lulled him into peace. Other times, it lashed against the pane, fierce and relentless, echoing the storm inside his chest. He thought of what he had given her, trust, love, the kind of patience that is rare, and of how effortlessly it had been disregarded. He replayed memories in his mind, searching for moments he might have missed, signs that could have warned him. Perhaps he had been too trusting, too lenient, too willing to overlook small inconsistencies. But even as he questioned himself, he knew the truth. Betrayal is not always a reflection of the one who gives their heart. Sometimes it is simply the choice of another, a path they take without regard for the love they leave behind. Friends reached out, offering distractions, dinners, laughter, and company. He accepted politely, but their words, though well-meaning, felt hollow. Nothing could fill the emptiness that stretched inside him. Every familiar street, every cafe where they had once sat together reminded him of what was gone. The world around him continued to move, but he felt frozen in time, suspended in a space where joy had no place. But in the quiet, a flicker of understanding began to emerge. He realized that the pain, as sharp and unrelenting as it was, had also revealed something about him. his capacity to feel deeply, to love fully, to trust without reservation. The betrayal could not take that from him. It could wound him, yes, but it could not erase who he was. One rainy evening, he pulled out a notebook and began to write. Not a letter to Maya, not an accusation, not a plea, just words that mapped the storm inside him. Each sentence, each line eased the weight on his chest slightly. Writing became a quiet act of reclamation, a way to make sense of the chaos he could not control. And with every word, he felt a subtle shift. The pain remained, but the emptiness began to thin. He realized that acknowledging his feelings, rather than hiding from them, could transform suffering into clarity. The betrayal had hurt him deeply, yes, but it had also shown him that he was capable of surviving, capable of enduring, and capable of eventually thriving again. By the time the rain slowed to a gentle drizzle, he had a small but firm thought. I will carry this experience with me, not as a curse, but as a lesson. And someday I will be whole again. Weeks passed, and the rain became a familiar companion. He no longer tried to distract himself from the ache inside. Instead, he began to listen to it, to let it speak the truth he had been avoiding. Betrayal hurts, but surviving it is possible. One evening, he sat by the window, notebook in hand, the city dimly lit by streetlights through the drizzle. He began to speak softly, almost as if the rain outside were the only listener. His voice trembled at first, but each word gave him relief. "This is my story," he said quietly. "A story of trust, love, and betrayal. I loved someone completely, and it was not returned in the way I deserved." He recounted small joys, quiet mornings, shared coffees, walks in the park, conversations that stretched into the night. He spoke of the subtle changes, the growing distance, and the moment he saw her with someone else, the moment the life he had imagined collapsed in silence. But he did not dwell on anger or blame. Instead, he spoke of the emptiness that followed, the long nights of reflection, the way betrayal forced him to confront himself. He shared how he discovered a hidden resilience, the ability to feel pain fully without being consumed by it, the capacity to survive what he had thought would destroy him. Hours passed, and the rain continued its gentle rhythm. By the time he finished speaking, a strange calm had settled over him. He realized that giving his pain a voice, even to no one in particular, had lightened it. He felt less trapped by the shadows of the past and more connected to the strength that had always been inside him. He decided to share the recording, not for pity or attention, but as a testament to anyone who had loved and lost. "You are not alone," he thought. "The pain does not define you. How you face it does." In that quiet moment, he understood something profound. Even after betrayal, even after heartbreak, life offers the chance to reclaim oneself. And telling his story was the first step towards doing just that. After sharing his story, a quiet peace settled over him. The pain had not vanished, nor had the memories faded, but they no longer held the power to consume him. Speaking out loud, acknowledging what had happened, had shifted something inside. A subtle but profound change, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a cloudy morning. He realized that betrayal, as painful as it is, does not define the person who was hurt. It only tests the resilience that was always there. The love he had given, though not returned in the way he hoped, was not wasted. It had shaped him, taught him the depth of his capacity to care, and showed him that trust is both precious and courageous. He began to walk again through the city streets, noticing the small things he had missed in his grief. The sound of rain on leaves, the warm glow of lamps in windows, the subtle hum of life continuing around him. Each step felt lighter. He understood that the world, though it had taken something from him, also offered something back, the chance to rebuild, to rediscover, to find beauty in moments that were entirely his own. And in the evenings, he would sit by the window, listening to the rain, reflecting on what he had endured and how far he had come. He no longer wished for her to return, no longer hoped for answers that might never come. Instead, he embraced the quiet, a quiet filled with understanding, acceptance, and the gentle promise of growth.